The student becomes the master, the triumph and tragedy of Aristotle's fulfillment and education. Oftentimes, upon hearing the name Aristotle, people think of the three greatest philosophers in Greek history. The chain of students and masters. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle himself. All three of these historic figures had their own methods and beliefs. Socrates taught by asking the student question after question, causing the student to think and analyze the subject at hand to a point of clarity. This style of teaching is called the Socratic method, named after Socrates himself. Socrates did not think of himself so much a teacher as he did a guide on the journey of education. Plato inherited some of his master's use of the Socratic method, but to a different philosophical concept. Plato believed in the theory of forms. The theory of forms goes beyond the physical makeup of objects and delves into the internal profile of all things living and non-living. He was an idealist and chose rather believe than prove. He would decide on an idea and look for evidence that supports it, as opposed to those who let the proof create the thoughts themselves. Lastly, there's the great Aristotle. His outlooks were near opposite to Plato's. He was concerned with the physical creation of things rather than what they could have been. He only believed the facts and rarely made assumptions. These are also reflective of his scientific successes. Most seem to know about the all-philosophical Aristotle and his imprint on modern ethics, but few understand his full life story and how his legacy was not only created, but preserved. Aristotle was born in Macedonia, Greece, in the year 384 BCE. When his father, Nicomacheus, died, Aristotle was 10 years old. His uncle assumed guardianship, and he was then sent to Athens as a teenager to enroll at the Platonic Academy. He trained as Plato's pupil and was a model student. Graduated early, and the academy offered him a teaching position. Over time, he began to stray from some of Plato's philosophies and come up with his own beliefs. During Aristotle's time at the academy, a tragic event took place. King Philip II of Macedonia waged war on numerous city-states, Athens included. When his heritage battled his new home, it could not have been an easy time for the great philosopher. It seems he thought he would take over the academy after Plato's death, but due to his disagreement with Plato's ways, he was rejected that role in favor of Plato's nephew. Afterward, he decided that there was no longer anything for him in Athens, so he moved to Assos. This former home of Aristotle was located on the northwest coast of Anatolia in modern-day Turkey. A few years later, King Philip II summoned Aristotle to Macedonia. The king wanted Aristotle to act as a tutor to his 13-year-old son, Alexander, who would later be known as Alexander the Great. Aristotle tutored him for 7 years until Alexander ascended the throne. After mentoring the new king, Aristotle wanted to continue teaching, but he knew that the Platonic Academy was not where he belonged. He had a true philosophical voice, and he wanted to share it. And that is why he triumphantly created the Lyceum. The Lyceum was a school where Aristotle took in those who wanted to learn and taught them all he knew. He preferred to teach in the fresh air of day, so they held their discussions and lectures all on walks along the mountain side. The Lyceum was not a private club like the Academy was, as most of his lectures were open to the public and free of charge. He taught on many subjects such as ethics, morals, and sciences. He gladly continued his passion for teaching in a space that belonged to him, where he could encourage the thoughts of ethics and morals in a way that was his own. Years later, following the death of Alexander the Great, Aristotle was forced to flee once more. Not out of grievance, but due to the anti-Macedonian sentiment sweeping the city of Athens. It seems he feared the same fate as Socrates once did. He fled to a house that once belonged to his family, slightly north of Athens, and died of a stomach issue the following year. You see, if it were not for the battles, disagreements, and hardships that led to Aristotle pursuing his own path, we may never have known about this ancient man, or the philosophical concepts that our society relies so much on to this day. Everything has an action and consequence, a cause and effect, a tragedy and a triumph.